Good evening, church. We're so excited to be here. I'm Maggie Radl, and I'm joined with my amazing mother-in-law, Jennifer Radl, and we're so excited to speak to you about Job. And we've done a couple midweek lessons. I feel like we need to go on the road with like the Maggie and Jennifer show. We've been able to do, for her midweek series, Jen and Bruce are part of our Northwest branch. And I've been able to speak with her a couple times, and so I'm so grateful and excited that she gets to speak to all of you in Metro this week. But we are coming here today on our third lesson in the book of Job, and we're talking about being blameless and upright in Job's character. So Howard gave us a great introduction about the book of Job and kind of really set it up for us, and then Michelle and Dakota last week really had the hard topic of focusing on that topic of good and evil. And so now we're kind of taking this next step and jumping more into Job's character. So tonight we're really going to focus on how God and Satan both identified Job and how this identity really shaped who he was known to be, and how his character really got him through all of his journeys and trials. So we're going to jump in and start just in Job chapter 1, verse 1. And it says, "In the land of Uz there was a man named Job. This man was blameless and upright. He feared God and shunned evil." So right away, the author of Job wants us to know that Job was blameless and upright. Like, this is a very good way to be described right off the bat. You know, it's quite the reputation. I don't think I've ever been described as blameless or upright. So I am humbled and honored.
Me neither.
It's good. So we just wanted to talk about what does it mean to be blameless and upright. So blameless here, the Hebrew word is tam, and it's used 15 times in the Old Testament, and 7 times of that it's used in Job. So it's really emphasized here in Job. And it's connected here. It says blameless and upright because he feared God and shunned evil. And then upright, on the other hand, is used 119 times in the Old Testament and 9 times alone in Job. And upright here really means to be level, to be straight, like a straight path. Blameless, again, like we said, it's really to be, it's also used, the word tam is also known as being like complete or morally and ethically pure. Like they talked about like an offering, a sacrifice in the Old Testament to God, would they find a blameless animal, like one without defect. So this was how the author identified Job. This was how he was known. This was his identity. So that brings us to our first point. We're talking about our identity. So point number 1 is our identity. So not only does the author describe Job this way, but then we'll read on, and then God describes him this way too. So we'll pick it up in verse 6 in chapter 1. "One day the angels came to present themselves to the Lord, and Satan also came with them. The Lord said to Satan, 'Where have you come from?' Satan answered the Lord, 'From roaming throughout the earth, going back and forth on it.' Then the Lord said to Satan, 'Have you considered my servant Job? There is no one on earth like him. He is blameless and upright, a man who fears God and shuns evil.'" So this is how Job is not only identified by the author, but it's how he's identified in God's eyes. You know, how do we identify ourselves? You know, we can identify ourselves by our life stage. We're a student, an intern, an accountant, a teacher, a campus minister, a security guard, a recruiter, a sales representative. We're single, we're a wife, we're a mother, we're a grandparent, an empty nester, a widow. You know, when you go to a party, one of the first questions you're asked is, "So what do you do?" And you know, some of the life stages we embrace. You know, I love being a mom. I really enjoy being a recruiter. But other times it can be hard when we feel like we're stuck in a stage that we don't want to be in. We're single. We're struggling with infertility. We're in between jobs, etc. But we can also be identified by our sin. You know, we're a worrier. We are stubborn. We're impatient. We're greedy. We're selfish. We're a drunkard. We're short-tempered. We're materialistic. We're impure. You know, I am very impatient. Just ask Niles or Jen. Don't answer that on camera. No. But I have a short fuse, and I've passed that along, regrettably so, to some of my children. But it's something that I really don't love about myself. I hate that this is a sin that continues to be in my life. And I can feel like this is how I'm identified. This is how I am and how I'm always going to be. You know, other times we can identify ourselves that others can actually identify us. Words or names called by family members or teachers or coaches. Sometimes it's the good and the bad. It can be described as like, she's that one over there. She's difficult. She's troubled. She's hard to work with. Or she's a team player. She's a hard worker. She's really fun to be around. When I was young in elementary school, I had a really hard time doing my homework and completing my assignments. I just was not that interested. And my mom, when I was raised by a single mom, and she went to a parent-teacher conference, and she was asking her teachers, like, what do I do about Maggie? She doesn't want to finish her homework. And my teacher said to my mom, oh, don't worry about her. She'll have her own talk show host one day. I've always been known to have this big personality and someone who can bring a lot of energy into a room. My daughter, Gigi, has inherited that side of me, and it comes with the good and the bad. She brings in so much light and life and energy to a room, but she can also bring a lot of feelings and emotions, and she can growl, and be angry that you're looking at her. But we can be identified by other people in our lives.
Nene loves Gigi.
Even on her good and bad days.
Yes. So some of these identities, we love. I love being a mom. I love being Nene. I love being grandma, grandparent. But there's others these identities that I've struggled with, and some that were just kind of put upon me, where being a caretaker for 2 years, first with my dad and then with my aunt. They're challenging. They really challenge us to dig deep and to kind of figure out how to work with what God has given us. And Job's identity was rooted in the fact that he was devoted to God. Being blameless doesn't mean that Job was sinless. He wasn't a perfect man. There isn't one other than Jesus, because we know that with Romans 3:23. All fall short of the glory of God. All have sinned. But Job was blameless because of his righteousness. An example of this we can see in Job 1:5, where it was Job's custom to sacrifice a burnt offering for each of his children after one of them had a big party, a feast, just in case that child had sinned. Our identity is defined by God. I'm a child of God, a disciple of Jesus. I'm God's image bearer. How do you identify yourself? What are the tapes that are going on in your head of what you call yourself? Do you identify yourself exactly how God does? When we were buried with Christ in baptism, we were washed, we were sanctified, we were justified in the name of the Lord Jesus Christ and by the Spirit of our God, according to 1 Corinthians 6:11. Our righteousness doesn't waver. We're covered by Jesus' righteousness. We can't earn our righteousness by doing 3 righteous acts. I am a child of God. I belong to God's family. Let's continue in Job 1:8-12. Then the Lord said to Satan, have you considered my servant Job? There's no one on earth like him. He's blameless and upright, a man who fears God and shuns evil. Does Job fear God for nothing? Satan replied. Have you not put a hedge around him and his household and everything he has? You have blessed the work of his hands, so that his flocks and herds are spread throughout the land. But now stretch out your hand and strike everything he has, and he will surely curse you to your face. The Lord said to Satan, very well then, everything he has is in your power. But on the man himself do not lay a finger. Then Satan went out from the presence of the Lord. Now here we can see Satan is attacking Job's identity and saying he's only blameless or righteous because God has blessed him. Satan is questioning Job's motivation for being righteous. Satan sees Job as shallow, and he's only blameless because everything is going well.
And this is intense. There's a lot. I mean, this is a bad day, to say the least. Not to belittle it, but it is. There's a lot going on. And I think here, like Jen was sharing, is that Satan's really attacking Job's identity because he thinks that all of these things are going well in his life. And so, what motivates us to be righteous? Sometimes we can feel like our actions are right, that we want to be close to God, that we want, that because our relationship with God is going so well, then our relationship with him is rooted. But the motivation behind it can even be self-focused. I first started coming to church because I thought Niles was cute. He invited me out to a Bible talk, and I thought, sure, I'll go with that tall drink of water, and it really hit me that afterwards that he's not just this kid inviting me to Bible talk, but that it was so much different and so much more than that. But I thought, sure, if he's there, I'm in. So, what motivates us to go and attend things? Because of who's there or who asks us or who we're going to see or not see. Sometimes I think we can be motivated to be righteous because it's a new year. New year, new you, new church. Let's start a new resolution. And even here, during COVID, it can feel like it's something different to do. We're able to see somebody different or just get outside of the house. We can be righteous or be motivated to be righteous because we desire blessings. If I'm good to God, then God's going to be good to me. If I just act holy, then I'll be protected and all of my prayers will be answered. We can want something from God. I promise God, I will obey you. I'll love you if you just give me this. If you just answer this prayer or perform this miracle or make this relationship happen, I promise I'll love you forever. We can do right things because we really want people to see that side of us and not really think poorly of us. I am a big people pleaser. I really care about how others view me and the perception that I give off. I want to be a cool mom who's like holy, close, and devoted to God, yet humble and kind, and like just casually baking and cooking on the side. But I need to check that part of myself and really, really go and dig deep and look at my relationship with God and say, am I being righteous? Am I desiring to be close to him for those reasons? Or for the reasons that I really want to motivate me. I want to be motivated to be righteous because of the cross. Growing up religious, I always knew the story of the crucifixion. But until I really grasped what the cross meant and how personal it was, and that Jesus died for me, did it not change my life. When I see other people overcome the struggles that are in their lives, that they're using their strength, and God's power is really what's moving and changing in their lives, I'm inspired. I'm not alone in this battle against Satan. I'm surrounded by mighty men and women who are really fighting to be close to God. I'm so grateful for some of the moms in our metro region that I've really developed a close relationship with. We have young children and our friendship is deep. It's honest, it's real, it's encouraging, and it's convicting. We share insecurities, we share sins and struggles and goals and dreams and hopes and prayers. And their friendship really brings me back to God. I want heaven to motivate me. I want to be with God for eternity. I want him to be able to say, well done, good and faithful servant. We can think of Job kind of as this man who lost it all, and he did. This was devastating, and I honestly can't fathom it. But he, on the flip side, he lost a lot because he had a lot. He was a very blessed man. He had a lot of great things in his life. In Job 1, we read in verses 2-3, it says, he had 7 sons and 3 daughters, and he owned 7,000 sheep, 3,000 camel, 500 yoke of oxen, and 500 donkeys, and he had a large number of servants. He was the greatest man among all the people of the East. I mean, that's a lot of cleanup. That's a lot of animals to take care of. But this was just these numbers are gigantic, and he was so blessed. And I think of all the answered prayers in his life, that he has legacy and livestock and things to leave his children and his family. He probably felt really good. He was known as the greatest man. So when we have good times, how do those good times and blessings affect our righteousness? There is no denying that this past year has been hard, and it can feel hard for me to even talk about good times There has been so much pain and heartbreak and sickness and sadness. But there have been some blessings that have happened this year. What are the blessings that you've seen in 2020? And when we get those blessings, how do we respond? Sometimes we can forget to rely on God. We can live on our own strength, becoming really self-sufficient and proud. I can think, I've earned this. I prayed, I worked hard, I've been good. So this is the blessing that I've earned. It's like a paycheck. Like this is earned, this is deserved to me. I think material blessings can cause us to become more worldly. We stay really focused on things of this world and not on things above. We've received stimulus checks. We've been really blessed. And to get some of this financial relief that the government's provided, and it can just feel really easy to be like, great, extra money. We're saving to buy a house. We're trying to think of our future. But what am I using that money for? Is my first inclination and instinct to give back? There are so many businesses, companies, neighbors that are struggling so hard. And this is additional income that we did not factor that is a great blessing. What can I do with that? Can I give and share in a way that maybe I haven't thought of? There has been lots of good times and blessings in this past year for us. We've connected as a family. I think of the Radls. Our family has connected and talked more than I think we've ever talked consistently than I ever have in my life with them. We have consistent Zoom meetings and we're able to see each other that way. We're all spread out over the country. I've had a lot of time with my kids. It hasn't been all sunshine and rainbows and butterflies, but I am really grateful for this quality time that we've been given. I'm really grateful to spend these days with them. We've been able to serve others. We've dropped off cookies and Valentines and gift baskets to our neighbors. And we really serve with no agenda. We can't really see them, so I'm not expecting anything in return. Oftentimes we don't even get recognition. We kind of drop it in the mailbox or on the front porch and leave. And that's been really good for my heart. I'm not doing it to please them, but I'm doing it because it's an outpouring of what I'm able to do. We do know that a lot of what Job has does get taken away from him. He loses his home, his children, his livestock. What can we learn from Job in his response to hard times as well? This past year, like we've talked about, a lot has been lost. A lot has been taken from us. We've missed out on birthdays, on weddings, on babies being born, meetings of the body, family dinners and vacations. We've also lost family members and friends and loved ones to this horrible virus. Some of us have lost our jobs, our income, our stability, our sanity. I've aged. But when this good is taken from us, how do we respond? Do we respond with faith or fear? With joy and not discouragement? With peace and not anxiousness? With patience and not irritation, which is not me. Do we serve others or are we serving ourselves? I think sometimes we can wonder if this journey is really worth it. We can envy the ungodly and think that they just have it better. If we just left God and forgot about all of this, our lives would be better. Are we still able to be identified, to be known as someone who's righteous and devoted to God?
So now we're going to go on to women of integrity. And the Holman Christian Bible version of Job 1:1 says that Job was a man of perfect integrity. So we're going to talk about being women of integrity. So integrity is the quality of being honest and having strong moral principles, strong convictions. Blameless and upright is someone that has integrity. I would love to be known as a woman of integrity.
Agreed.
I think we all would. But it's not easy
to
be a woman of integrity. Even Job's wife was struggling. In Job 2, verse 9, his wife says to him, "Are you still holding on to your integrity? Curse God and die."
Forget it! Let it go!
How does God view integrity? In Proverbs 2, verse 7, he says, "He stores up sound wisdom for the upright. He is a shield to those who walk in integrity." Psalms 41:12, "Because of my integrity, you uphold me and set me in your presence forever." Psalm 97:11. Light shines on the righteous and joy on the upright in heart. God is pleased by those who are upright. Spiritual integrity is obedience to God even when no one is looking. You know, who are we when we're alone? Is it different than when we're with our household? Who are we when we're with our roommates, our spouses, our children, our family? Is that different than when we're with church friends? Who are we when we're at church or in small groups? Are we different people? Do we have secret lives? It's easy to fall back into sinful patterns during this pandemic when we're not around as many people as we once were. You know, how are you doing with your spending? You know, I think there's such a thrill, such a joy when a package arrives at the door. And after a couple months, I had to stop and go, you know, I have to really reevaluate what I'm putting in my cart. And buying not things that I want, but only things that I need. So was I getting that thrill from that? You know, how am I doing with my purity? How are you doing with your purity? You know, I had to make the decision that if I'm reading something or I'm watching something that is going to cause me impure thoughts, to immediately stop. So I don't watch the show anymore. I return the book to the library. I'm not going to continue it. How are you doing with your consumption of alcohol? You know, you look at Facebook and YouTube videos, everything, the solution that the world is saying to this pandemic is drink. And so just, you know, are we falling into that? Are you falling into that? Ask yourself the question, if Jesus were sitting next to you, would you do this? I think about if Jesus was sitting with me in the car, I wouldn't have speeded. I was late one time to church and I was speeding on my way to church, and of course I got pulled over because God wanted to teach me something. And so the first thing I thought of was, oh God, please, no ticket, no ticket. And then as he's questioning me and talking to me, I'm like, please don't ask me where I'm going, because I'm so embarrassed and I'm just mortified. And of course he did. He said, where are you going so fast? And I was like, to church. I'm sorry. Have mercy, give me grace. And he did. He was very nice. But from then on, I've always set my cruise control to the right speed where I'm going, so that I'm making sure that Jesus is in the car with me. So also thinking about, if Jesus were sitting next to you, would you say this? I thought about years ago when my kids were teenagers, I asked them, the way that I talk to you, the way that I am, my speech with the family, what do you think I could change in that? Is there anything that I say that hurts your feelings, that kind of. So I was asking them questions about that. I did not expect the answer that they gave, and they said, well, sometimes you talk to Dad like he's a child. And that just cut me to the heart, and was repented and changed. And so fast forward a few years later, like a couple weeks ago, I asked my family members if there was anything that they saw that I could change. I said one thing each. And my husband said, you're stubborn. And that, cut me to the heart again. And so now he's helping me see when I have my mind made up about something and I don't want to listen to any input, that I'm being stubborn. So I'm really going after that piece. But even Job asked his friends in chapter 6, verse 24, show me where I've been wrong. And they couldn't come up with anything. Now, that wasn't the case at my family.
Me neither. It's very impressive. But this shows Job's integrity, and it says in Proverbs 11:3, the integrity of the upright guides them, but the unfaithful are destroyed by their duplicity. So we think of the flip side of someone who doesn't have integrity. It's this duplicity. So duplicity means deceitfulness, double dealing. We can say one thing but do another. And what did Jesus call this? Hypocrisy. Being a hypocrite was something Jesus really preached about and cared about. Many of the religious leaders that he spoke to in the Gospels were hypocrites. In Matthew 23, Jesus had a lot of very choice words for those people. He kept saying, "Woe to you. They were fools, whitewashed tombs, snakes, and a brood of vipers." He was serious about their integrity, and he is serious about ours. It's a reason today that so many people are turned off to Christianity, because they see people claiming to be Christians but acting less like Christians than those people outside of the church. God wants us to be like his son, Jesus. He wants us to worship and live in truth and in spirit, to be upright, to be women of strong integrity. We can want the world around us to be filled with people of integrity, filled with men and women of integrity. We want our government leaders to be people of integrity. We want the athlete, the movie star, the musician, the noble person that we put on this pedestal to be all that they are on stage and off. And so often, this is why the tabloids are millionaires, the truth comes out and our image of these people are shaken and we're disappointed. Their hypocrisy is made known and they're really revealed for who they are. And what's so interesting that after chapter 2 of Job, we do not hear from Satan again. But Job's friends kind of take on this role as the accuser, and they are convinced that Job must have had this hidden sin. He must be a hypocrite, and that is why all of these misfortunes happen to him and all of these troubles. And their accusations, the tremendous losses that Job encountered, plus his own physical condition, really began to challenge Job's faith and his righteousness. But he did not waver. He remained dedicated to God. Listen to the way he describes his challenges that are coming to him from all sides and what his response is. Job 19, I summon my servant, but he does not answer, though I beg him with my own mouth. My breath is offensive to my wife. I am loathsome to my own family. Even the little boys scorn me. When I appear, they ridicule me. All my intimate friends detest me. Those I love have turned against me. I am nothing but skin and bones. I have escaped only by the skin of my teeth. And then he says, I know my Redeemer lives, and that in the end he will stand on the earth. We need to strive to be blameless and upright like Job in our daily lives. Satan is out to kill and destroy. He is seeking for someone, and we can't be surprised by his attacks. He wants us to give up our faith in our pursuit of righteousness. He will attack us, and we can't be surprised. Colossians 1, verse 22 and 23 say, But now he has reconciled you by Christ's physical body through death to present you holy in his sight, without blemish, we can think blameless, and free from accusation. If you continue in your faith, established and firm, and do not move from the hope held out in the gospel. This is the gospel that you have heard and that has been proclaimed to every creature under heaven, and of which I, Paul, have become a servant. We need to remember that our identity is rooted in Jesus, and because of that, he makes us blameless, and we can be known as women of integrity. Thanks so much.
Amen.
Woo-hoo! Have a great night.